Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is get the twist out of this 2x4. This 1963 piece of 2x4, which has a wonderful tight grain. Hard to see the bad end, but in any case, we're going to go over here. There you can see really tight grain. So a lot of sustain on this wood, but we got to get the twist out of it. So we're going to have to shim it, flip it over, secure it down this, and that is just so that we could maneuver this piece on the other jig that I'm going to show you in a second. But we're going to flip this down, other side, secure it down through these brackets, just like you see there. We're going to secure it down so it doesn't move, because if it moves in the process, we have completely lost our flat surface reference. Okay, so here is our router jig on our desktop sled, and it's just going to slide down there and then go across this way and take the high spots off the 2x4. That is the premise, and we'll figure out if that's going to work. All right, so we have the router ready to set on top of the bed. The 2x4 is secured to this so that I could move this and keep the same reference point, because we got this bracketed down to there. We have it shimmed to both ends, and the sled makes clearance the whole way. And I positioned it here so that the blade of the router will start at this end. And then when we get all the way down to this end where we reach our stop, right there, I will undo these 2 screws, or 4 screws, and slide this whole bed on top of this one and slide it this direction. And that way we'll be able to continue the rest of the way, maintaining our reference point. That's the theory. All right, so here it is. Here is the router setup. Flattening bit is on there. We checked for clearance. We're going to go across there little by little and then reposition it and take the depth down so we get a nice clean cut all the way. The brackets are clear of any metal contact. No metal contact. All right. All right, so here it is, perfectly milled. Getting ready to start, I don't know, 3rd day, 4th day, I've lost track, but we are continuing with the milling of this 63-year-old 2x4, which had a twist in it with a really super tight grain. I expect some really nice resonance out of this piece of wood when it's a neck through guitar, when all is said and done. We have our maple neck, blank, no frets in it yet. It's not radiused, and that will be going on here, but not before we could get this perfectly straight. We have our depth gauge. This side over here is just like basically 1 or 2 centimeters higher than this side. So we're going to check that as we go. We have decided on a Les Paul type headstock with 3 tuning pegs on each side, but straight for the most part, in line with the neck versus angled down. Okay, so it's supposed to be a 1/4 inch lower than the top of the fingerboard, but we don't have the fingerboard on there yet, so we're just going to go a little bit lower, and then we're going to measure from there up. As you can see, we have made quite a bit of progress on the back side of here, and this is where it's going to curve down. Tuning pegs going there, and we got to take it down to about there. So we still got a little ways to go. Yeah, we're just over a 1/2 inch. Okay, well, here we are. The progress that we've made today so far, I am satisfied with. I still don't know what the outcome will be, but measuring along the way and going slow and steady, I'm okay. I don't feel like I made any major mistakes. What we did achieve is making the headstock. This is the back side, front side, little drop in elevation, counting the fingerboard that will be on there. And then we just got to calculate. I did over on this other side, actually. Yeah, calculated on the other side how far down we have to trim the backside because we want to maintain the thickness here for the body to join. So what we still have left to do is to mill this outer edge, get it perfectly straight, just like that top side and that back side are perfectly straight. And then we will be able to find the center line for the fingerboard. Once we get to the point of confidence that we are still proceeding with the thickness that we're going to need for the neck overall, counting the fingerboard and counting radiusing the fingerboard, then we will arrive at what design for the headstock, whether we do curves, flares, whatever up here. But in any case, my friends, that's it so far. Nice and straight. Both sides measure the same. And it is right up to the line. Now the round over bit's going to go on both sides after I take some wood off the edges here and all the way down. And this will just be rounded into there. Same thing at that end. That's going to round into the body. All right, we are ready to cut the truss rod trench. We've got our measuring device, our truss rod. We've measured where the stop points are. We put a couple of clamps at each end to make sure the router does not go beyond that point. We have our surface clamped down. We have our guide two-face taped down, and we have our center line. We're just taking down a tiny little bit just to see, make sure that it all looks like it's correct before we go for the full depth. All right, there you have it. The only thing we have to do is make this end wider and deeper to accommodate the truss rod adjustment, because that sits lower in the groove. But it is perfectly level, and we accounted for a little bit of light sanding across the top of here before we attach the fingerboard. And there we have it. It is nice and level all the way down. Just enough tolerance for a light sanding. Pretty soon we will have this section contoured down to about here so that we could get the round over bit to start shaping the back side of this.